day, now you get a knock at the door or the doorbell, and it's the police. There's almost nothing more terrifying, is there?
It's so long since it's happened, and I can't remember how I would have reacted if it happened again.
But you presume the worst, don't you? Think, oh, no, something's happened to my mum or my son, or, like, you know, you just imagine the fear. Well, this poor grandmother in Greater Manchester got that. Apparently, they rang the doorbell. She's got one of those camera bells. So she saw it was the police, and she rushed home thinking, what's happened?
She thought somebody had died.
And guess what the police were there for? Would you like to read, Andrew, what she wrote on Facebook? Yeah. This is extraordinary.
This is George Orwell officially now. These are the thought police who, instead of stopping real crime, turned up at her door to say there'd been a complaint because she put on social media, remember the fuss we reported here extensively on GBNews about the minister who had to resign as a health minister because he'd put offensive things on a WhatsApp group about pensioners and various things. So this lady, 54-year-old granny from Stockport, who's a school administrator, said, "Oh, will Councillor Sedgwick, will you be resigning?" Gosh, that's offensive and shocking, isn't it? And another one, she said, "Not looking good for Councillor Sedgwick." So two coppers, plain clothes, turn up to say, "We've had a complaint. You have to think about your language." Why should she?
And I think the most chilling part of this story is that she now says, I'm too frightened to put... I'm now too terrified, she said, to post on social media again.
So that's job done for the police?
Job done. Silence us. Just shut it down. We don't want debate. We don't want criticism. We're the Labour government. We do as we say, not as
she did say to the police officers, "I'm amazed you're here. Have I done anything wrong?" "No, but we're just giving you advice." And then she said, "It's a pity you weren't here a bit more quickly when we complained about the spate of cars getting nicked from her street."
Yeah.
And the copper said, "Oh, I'm not getting into that." No, of course he's not. Now, look, who sends the police officers to do it in the first place? Is it the chief inspector? Is it the chief constable?
Well, which busybody is looking through Facebook to dob people into the police? I hate the snitching culture. I hate it so much. Report a crime, absolutely. If you see somebody doing something wrong, you should be ringing 999, you should be getting video footage, whatever it is, to get people banged up if they're doing something wrong. But just dobbing on your neighbours or just looking through Facebook and getting somebody to go around and knock on a granny's door.
I know. It's really
I hate the way this country is going.
She did nothing wrong. And by the way, she was fully entitled to ask, are these councillors going to resign? As a result of that WhatsApp group, 11 councillors were suspended. So she was asking a legitimate question.
Yeah. And, you know, we need to... Once you are self-policing like that, we are just living in a tyrannical country. We just are. If it means that you don't post on social media, we saw it in the aftermath of the Southport riots as well. We have seen this increasingly, and it's exactly what J.D. Vance, the VP in America, and Donald Trump have been talking about with this country and saying that under Keir Starmer, free speech is dying in this country.
Imagine if J.D. Vance, who'd made that point about free speech, had been made aware of this. 54-year-old grandmother putting out two mild questions on Facebook, and she gets two coppers, plainclothes, on her doorstep.
And she wasn't found guilty of anything. I think it's really important to say that. There was no crime in the end. But which police officer thinks that is the right thing to do?
Do you think they were embarrassed?
I hope they are.
They should have been hanging their head in shame, actually.
I hope they're embarrassed.
Awful. I don't know if the grandmother lives on her own, but it would shake you up, wouldn't it?
It's just awful. I hate everything about it.
You or I wouldn't be shaken up. You or I would have had a big fight with them.
Yeah, we would, absolutely. gbnews.com/your say to let us know your thoughts.
Now, we have to read a statement. Detectives from Greater Manchester Police have been accused of acting like thought police after they investigated a grandmother who had the temerity to criticise some local Labour councillors on Facebook.
54-year-old Helen Jones received a visit from two detectives after she called for the resignation of local councillors embroiled in a WhatsApp scandal. This footage here is from her doorbell. This is the two police officers who had the time to come and knock on her door.
Specifically, the grandmother called for a councillor, David Sedgwick, to resign following revelations about offensive WhatsApp messages. Her post included these daring statements: "Not looking good for Councillor Sedgwick," and "Councillor Sedgwick, will you be resigning?" What is threatening about that?
So we're joined now by the Director of Case Management at the Free Speech Union, Dr Benjamin Jones. Morning, Benjamin. When you see another story like this in our newspapers, what's your first response as somebody from the Free Speech Union?
I just cannot get myself into the minds of, first of all, the police who take a phone call from an elected politician with a constituent complaining about them on social media and thinking that that is something that I, as a police officer, should be spending my time on.
Can I just stop you there? So do you, but just,
Yeah.
sorry, but do you believe then that the complaint came from David Sedgwick himself?
Well, that seems to be the case. That's my understanding of what's happened. That may not be right, but it seems the most logical reading of what's been reported.
Okay.
But from wherever it came, how a police officer listening to that complaint should then think this is something that I should be spending my time on is utterly extraordinary. And how we get to the point where those two police officers are knocking on a grandmother's door and thinking that that is a good use of their time, that that is something that British police officers should be doing, I would say it's remarkable, but unfortunately it's not. We've seen hundreds of thousands of non-crime hate incidents recorded in the last decade. We've seen a complete breakdown in trust over the last 3 or 4 years, particularly in the public towards the police. I'm afraid that this is the direction that British policing seems intent on going in.
Benjamin, I agree with you completely. Do you know who is setting this direction? Where is it coming from?
My theory about this is that there needs to be much better filtering from the police at the earliest possible stages, because there is this the police seem to be predisposed to accept complaints from members of the public and, for example, to record non-crime hate incidents and this sort of thing to show that something is being done. And I think actually the police need to get much better at just saying no, at just saying this is not a police matter, this is not something we're going to be wasting our time on. You are wasting our time by bringing this to our attention. But unfortunately,
but do you detect there's a political hand at work here? Is it politicians telling the police, we want you to do this stuff?
I think since what I would say on that point is that particularly since the Brexit referendum, I think there has been growing snowflakery from people in public life. And we've seen the case in the last fortnight, for example, in which we're being told again that judges and their decisions ought not to be criticised, that is anti-democratic. And this case, I think, shows how low the threshold is getting. If you cannot even say that your local councillor is hopeless and ought to resign, it's just extraordinary. It is not suspicious in a democratic society. It should not be a police matter for somebody to say that their local councillor, their local MP, or a decision made by a judge is wrong.
Yeah. Benjamin, thank you so much. Dr. Benjamin Jones there from the Free Speech Union. It started with Brexit and it went on steroids during the pandemic. You can't say that. Greater Manchester Police issued the following statement. They said, we spoke to the woman for 6 minutes to advise she was the subject of a complaint of harassment and to answer any questions that she might have. Oh, that was nice. No further action is necessary as no crime has been committed.
We're under a duty to inform her she's the subject of a complaint. The genuine threats that have been made to local councillors recently have meant it has been more necessary to ensure all reports are looked at. It did not require a visit.
Do you know what's amazing is that neither you nor me have had a knock on the door yet, but they say they won't come for journalists. I've said this, they're not coming for journalists.
I also never answer the door. The door went last night, I didn't answer it.
Oh.